to be respectful of everyone's time. And yeah, thanks for being here. I'll hand it over to Denise.
Awesome. Thank you, Meg. Hi, everyone. My name is Denise. I'm a management consultant based in New York City. I've been helping 48 and 48 since 2016 already. And today I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of the Beaver Builder tool within WordPress. As Meg mentioned, this session will be recorded, but if you do have any questions, once your awesome new websites have been handed over to you, I'm sure 48 and 48 will be happy to assist you. With that, I'm going to share my screen. So this is your WordPress dashboard. Once you log into WordPress, this is what you will see. You see a couple of red bubbles here. This is my fault. I am overdue with updating my WordPress, but this should be all fine for you. So this is your dashboard. If you want to find any website page within your WordPress environment, you just click on pages here on the left side, and this will bring you to all of your pages from your website. If you want to edit your homepage, you will have to look for a page that says, it's here on the second page, front page. So this will always be your homepage. And when you click it, you will get to your homepage. Now, in my case, this will bring you to my personal website. So I created a subpage for this 48 and 48 demo page. This also, you will probably have many more pages than your homepage. You'll find all of your subpages here. So let's have a look at this sample homepage that I created. Oh no, hang on. The Zoom banner is overlaying my browser, so okay. All right. So as I mentioned, this is a sample homepage that I created. Your homepage will likely look similar. So it starts with a hero, then maybe what you offer, the services you offer, or how people can get involved. Then a donation call to action, maybe a couple of events listed on your homepage, who you are, maybe a subscribe banner, or a subscribe form. But overall, this is how your website or your homepage should look like. Now, let's see how we can edit it. So as you can see, this website or this sample homepage is a little bit outdated. It was originally created for the Women's Build event that was hosted in April. So let's update it. And in order to update any page, not just your homepage within Beaver Builder, you click on Beaver Builder here on top. You don't have to worry about these bottom footer header sections, and you don't necessarily have to click this page. You can, but all you have to do is really click Beaver Builder. And once you click it, it opens up your entire page, right? So every single element now has a blue box surrounding it. Okay. So now for the hero section, let's say, for example, we want to update the headline here, the text box. We say, okay, instead of hybrid event, this is an in-person event. So you hover over this box, you click on the wrench here, it opens up. Go to general, and you say, no, this is an in-person event. So, and you can see this is a heading, we saved this, and here you can see it. It's updated. That's how easy it is. Now, let's say, for example, the date, we want to change the date. Again, you hover over the element that you want to change, click on the wrench here, it opens up. Now, this is a text editor. It's much like a Word document. So let's say, for example, okay, we need to change the date, right? This is completely outdated. This is June 28 to 30. And let's save this. If you want to, for example, change the font color, you can also do this here in the Style tab. And you can select any color. Now I'm going to select the crazy one. It probably doesn't look too good. Let's say here green, right? And then you just save it. This is how you can change the color of your text or your heading. I usually recommend sticking to the color scheme that the team has provided you, and not change it to, like not have like a whole color book on your page. So usually I would recommend stick to the colors that the team gave you, so the style of your website doesn't break or look weird. Now I just gave this weird color just to show you how to change the font color, right? You can also change the size. Now let's bring it back to white again. So the font size, you can change it here in typography. Click on font. Let's say 25 pixels by 30. You can already see in real time how it changes, right? Save, and here it is. Okay, that's how easy it is. Now let's say, for example, you want to change the background of your hero section, right? So what you can see here is that the background image is kind of floating, right? This is a cool effect. It's called a parallax effect. But let's say, for example, you want to change it to a static image. Now, in order to do that, you can see that this background here is in this really, really big box. You click on the wrench here, row settings, and here you get the style of the row. You scroll down, and as I mentioned, this is parallax. But you can choose other types as well, such as, for example, just a photo. And this is just a static photo. You see there's no scrolling effect, no floating effect. You can change any photo. You just click edit and you select any photo here. Now, let's zoom this again over. Okay. Okay, you can also change it to a single color by just clicking color, and there you have it. It's a bit boring, so you most likely won't need it. You can also add a video, although a video might be not a good choice because a video takes a lot to load. So let's stick to parallax. Here we go. The overlay is currently missing because, as I said, my WordPress needs to be updated. Overlay color gradient. There it is. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to the next section. So as I mentioned, this section could contain the services you offer, and they might change. So in order to change text, you just click over any item here and any element. And again, you just click the wrench and go to general in this case. Sometimes Beaver Builder saves where you last edited in any other element. So just go to general. And then again, it's like a Word document, right? Passionate about designing websites. Okay. And you see in real time, it updated already. You save it and it's there. Now, moving on to this call to action here. Can I move this panel? Yes. Okay. So this call to action here might contain a call out to join your nonprofit or to donate, right? It's very important that your nonprofits get donations. Now, this is rather static. Let's say, for example, you want to make it pop even more and you want the text to float in, and you can do that with animations within WordPress, WordPress and Beaver Builder, obviously. Now you click on the wrench here again. Whatever you want to animate, you go to advanced. And then you have here the animation section. Let's move this to the side a little bit. You can select animations, right? And you can test them out here. You can choose whatever you want to choose. I would recommend to stick with the more subtle ones, such as fade right, because you get all kinds of crazy animations here. So let's say fade in, okay? Really subtle, but it has a great effect for the end user. Okay, so that's how you can do animations. Now let's, for example, say your donation page has changed. Let's say you moved from PayPal to donor box, and you want to update your button. Now you click again, hover over this element, click on the wrench, and then go back to general. And here it's already updated with a donor box, but let's say, for example, your website is hosted on, I'll just grab 48 and 48 side. Let's imagine this is a PayPal page. I have to move this a little bit because of that zoom overlay. And then just update the link. And what I always recommend is that if you're linking to a donor page outside of your own website, outside of your own environment, then you should always have open in a new window enabled, right? So that people are not, that you're not losing your users. Your users still stick on your site. Okay, so let's update this, and it's updated. Your donation button is updated. Okay. You can also obviously change the text. Let's say, for example, this says now get involved, right? And there you have it. The button is updated. Now, let's say, for example, you feel like we could use a couple more donation buttons on our homepage. Let's say, for example, this is already from the last session. Let's say, for example, you want to have a donate button here in the Who We Are section. Now, what you could do is you can click here on the plus button, sorry, and you see the button here. You just drag and drop it. But what you notice here is that the button looks very different, right? So in order to adjust it and make it look like or apply the design that the 48 and 48 team created for you, you would have to go into style and work on all of these colors, etc. And that would take quite a while, right? So I would say, in order to save you some time and to remain or to keep the design that the 48 and 48 team provided to you, is whatever you want to duplicate on your page. All you have to do is click here on duplicate. Now we have two buttons, and then you just drag and drop the button to where you want it. Let's say here, for example, and then you just click on button settings, style, align it to the left, save, and there you have it. And then obviously, even like it's duplicated now, you can change it to whatever you want it to say, right? This could be, again, a donate button, donate now, and then you can say donor box. Okay. Open in a new tab because it's on another domain, save. And that's how easily you can duplicate not only buttons, but any element on your website. Okay. Moving on to, again, here in this call to action section, here now we have an image. Let's say, for example, you have a really cool video of your nonprofit that you want to feature, right? So in order to exchange this image element with a video element, you just click on the plus button here. Sorry, I don't know why I say plus size the whole time. And then you see video here. You drag and drop it into the section. And then your video might be hosted on YouTube. So you say you embed it, but you can also select it from your media library if you have it hosted or if you uploaded it to your WordPress environment. Let's say your video is hosted on YouTube. So I picked a video here. In order to embed it onto your website, you click on Share, Embed, just copy the entire code as is. You go back to your page, copy paste it, and here it is, right? And in order to remove that image, you just click Remove, okay, and there you have it. And a nice video, maybe of your nonprofit, telling people why they should join you, right? Or explaining your cause so that people move on to donate or to get involved. So this is how you can change an image to a video or just generally change any element with the standard modules here in Beaver Builder. All right. So last but not least, I wanted to show you, this is your team. Imagine this is your team, and you got another team member. You want to feature that team member, and you want to add their image. You can do that here by selecting a photo and just adding it here. But then again, you would have to, so let's select a photo. You see, it's not looking the same way as the other photos. So you would have to go in and then style it and adjust it the way that the other photos look. And it's just very time consuming. So let's remove this. And you might already know where I'm going with this. Duplicate an existing one, move it to the side here, and then just change it with the photo. Save. And here you have it, your fifth team member. All right. So, and then once you're done, you click Done and Publish. And then all of your changes will reflect on your homepage. So these are the most used features, I would say, by nonprofits. Obviously, there might be other things that you want to change. Again, if you have any questions, the 48 and 48 team can assist you. But generally, Beaver Builder is rather intuitive. And I really hope this session helped you with explaining the steps you need to take to update a couple of elements on your website. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Do we want questions or do we want to pass it on to Greg?
Sure, if there are any questions.
If there's any immediate questions, yeah, please let us know.
Hello, Denise.
Hello.
Hey, my name is Onela Marian. I just wanted to ask you how my English is not good. So I wanted to ask you how to space the content in your homepage. I don't know if I did it well. I said it well. You know,
what do you mean?
I saw on your page, for example, I mean, I don't know if you can come back.
Yes, which section?
Yeah, for example, when you see the difference. Oh, my bad. It's just the color. I'm sorry. It's just the color.
The color?
No, yeah, I just wanted to understand how you did to change I mean to space have the space between your content in your homepage. from your
I'm not.
banner to get involved. That's what I wanted to know, but I just realized just the color. It's okay. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No worries. So, I mean, I'm not too sure what you mean by spacing. There are ways to space out content, which is here in the column section, you could do it. So you can see that there is more spacing now on the top. But this is like super advanced, and I would probably say don't play around with it too much because it can break websites really easily. I would say stick to the spacing that the team gave you and just update text and headers and whatnot.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you,
Great. Well,
everyone.
if you have any questions about WordPress, you're welcome to let me know. Or if you're watching this recording later, please reach out to me. Thank you, Denise. As always, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
All right, Greg.
Hello, I'm Greg. And as soon as I got on camera, my doorbell rang. I think my son locked himself out. Just hop on. Give me 1 second. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that was Google at my door. Oh my gosh, they wanted to let me know there's crazy things happening. I should tell you about it. Yeah. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I think that's the easiest way to do that. All right. So you should be looking at my screen at this point. Everybody able to see the screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm Greg Lee. I'm an associate director of SEO at DensuX, part of Densu, previously known as 360i. And before that, I was with BKV, where I was SEO director there as well. So I've been in SEO since 2005. So you can do the math. At some point, I'll be like 20 years in SEO. Woo. But not yet. So anyway, 101 for basically nonprofits, what you can look at as far as why you care about SEO, what it can do for you, how to maintain SEO on your website after you've been handed this awesome website from 48 and 48, and other ways that you can boost your SEO. So jumping right in, what can SEO do for you? It's funny, you know, sometimes I say like, oh, I'm a director of SEO, and people are like, start thinking CEO. Like, no, not CEO. SEO is definitely different. It's about showing up in search results when people search on Google or Bing or Yahoo, or well, I don't know, mainly Google. So the idea is use SEO to show up where people are searching. And the thing about like where people are searching, it's the people. So you would probably have 3 different audiences, I'm guessing: volunteers, donors, and recipients of, you know, your services or whatever it is that you provide. And so thinking about that, some examples of searches, depending on the audience, they're going to have a different intent. So we talk about user intent on a website, like the page. What intent does this page answer? And in search, we think about what's their search intent. So if someone was to search the word food bank, we can think food bank. Okay, they're not searching the name of my organization. It's kind of a generic look for sort of a service. Maybe it's an organization. So they probably could be, their intent might be they want to receive services, like they want to get food, or they might have an intent that they want to find a food bank and volunteer. These are just educated guesses. What do you think someone is searching when they search food bank? But one thing you can do is Google puts a lot of research and AI into figuring out what do we want to show people when they search food bank? What do we think their intent is? So if you look on the right here, there's a mix of stuff that shows up in Google. There is a map pack, or sometimes called the 3-pack, where we've got 3 listings, local. So Google's thinking, oh, someone wants a food bank nearby so they can find it physically. They also may not know exactly what they want. So we have people also ask, like, how do food banks work? How do you qualify for food banks? So people also ask, is this thing in search that shows up that gives you like additional related questions and their answers. And then we have the normal web listings where it's like, okay, here's some web pages that you can visit. And sometimes there's a mix of things in there like news. So you might see top stories. So if there's something trending for the topic of food banks, Google might say, hey, let's insert some news that's going on around food banks because there's a lot of news right now. It's a hot topic. And so those things may change from day to day, depending on what's trending. But a lot of this stuff is pretty consistent in terms of like the map showing up. People also ask in the web listings. All right, so let's look at a different one. What if someone was to search local charities? So I'm thinking local charities. It's not the brand. It's not the name of an organization. It's a generic search, so we call it non-brand. And local charities, I'm thinking the intent could be someone wanting to donate or someone wanting to volunteer. They're looking for a charity. And in this search result, we actually see an ad at the top, and Google will label the ads. And it's a tiny little label. Sometimes you don't see them anymore. So it's not always obvious. And then about 3% of clicks go to the ads. It's not a ton of clicks, but they're very, very highly targeted, and it's such a science, paid search, in order to make ads make sense and get return for your investment in ads. But they're very targeted and very effective. The rest of what's on the page is the organic results. So even though it looks different and they look visual, these are all organic results. So 97% of the clicks end up on the organic results. So there's a lot on this page in the organic part. There's a knowledge panel. So Google's got a little square off to the side here with some more info. We've got a map pack, like we saw before, of local charities nearby. We have the people also ask. We have the web listings, and this one happens to have news in it as well. Oops. And that's all I've got on the local charity slide. pretty much the same stuff we saw before. So this time we're going to look at United Way. If someone searches for United Way, this is our first example of a brand search. So the name of the organization. So it's probably a different intent. They most likely they've already figured out kind of what they want, what they're wanting to do a little bit more, and they're ready to make a decision or an action. Their intent in this case, I'm suggesting, is either visit a United Way location, contact it, or learn more about that, about the organization. So here in the results, we have the main website at the top for United Way. We've got popular pages. We've got people also ask. There's some local websites like the local United Way of Atlanta. And then we have latest tweets from the brand that show up here. And then off on the right, we have a knowledge panel. This time it's a big knowledge panel with information about United Way, tax ID, when it was founded, headquarters, etc. There's social profiles. And then there's even more map stuff here, the map and photo. So if you're to scroll down, you would see that. We'll actually scroll down. Within the map area, we've got reviews. We've got local contact info. So like the local branch or the local, the location of United Way that's nearby. There's Q&A here. So there's a lot packed in here that people might use when they want to learn more, they want to visit it, they want to contact it. We've got all that stuff here. So that's just a quick look at what SEO can do for you, the areas in search results where it shows up, and some of the impact it can have. So I'm going to pause here and let you know if you have any questions. Feel free to come off mute, ask questions. I've got more sections to talk about, but just want to let you know, go ahead and ask away, put questions in the chat, etc. I don't mind at all. But in lieu of that, I'm going to hop on to the next section here. How to maintain your website SEO. So SEO, what goes into it? There's a lot that goes in behind the scenes to help position yourself in Google to get that visibility across different things. So 3 pillars, the 3 main areas are technical, content, and off-site signal. So things that are not on your website. So technical would be like, oh, was there a question? I thought I heard something. Okay, I'll keep moving on. So technical would be like the tags, internal links within the website. This thing is called structured data or schema code. So different code, redirects if you hit a page and then it redirects to a different page, site maps. So these are things that are kind of in the background that the team will be setting up in a manner. Content. This is typically your responsibility, the content and the offsite signals. So the content is, what are you talking about on the website? What are the topics you're covering? Keywords is a term people think about with SEO. It's kind of like if people are searching for a term, do you answer that term on your website? So like if they're searching for apples, are you talking about apples? Quality and accuracy of the content is very important. They want, Google's looking for content that is useful, that, answers things the best way that it can, and is reliable and accurate. So lastly, off-site signals. So this is something that people don't generally think about for SEO. It's not like doing things with your website and adding tags and adding content and optimizing for keywords. This is like everything else on the internet, which you really can't control directly the rest of the internet. But the fact is, Google tries to crawl the whole internet, every website, every day, multiple times. And it's looking at the entire website, the entire internet as a whole, and seeing it as an environment where different websites are linking to other websites. And it's looking at those links between them. And it's looking for mentions of words and topics, and sees like if your website shows up or your name of your organization shows up in the news, Google reads that. If someone tweets about your organization and links to your contact page, Google sees that and reads that. So there's a lot going on off your website that is telling Google a lot about it. In fact, it's a very powerful area in terms of the authority that your brand has within Google. Okay, so jumping into some really tactile stuff that you can do with your website. So starting off, you're getting a website from 4848, and it's going to have some stuff in it. So what you'll have, what you received here today, it's going to include the core pages of your site, the home page, contact, about, maybe some blog posts, etc. So those core pages. You'll have an SEO plugin, a WordPress plugin called Rank Math. And if you are like going the extra mile and you set up Google Analytics or Google Search Console, those are things that your website is ready for. You can connect them very easily. So that's the stuff that you're getting today. And everybody's starting from a different place. But from the most part, some of the things you may already have, if you already have a website, you may already have a Google Analytics account or a Google Search Console account. You may already have Google My Business Listings or Google Business Listings, where you're showing up on Google in the maps when you search for your name or your location. You may have social media profiles set up, where you've got, if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, etc. You may already have listings in Yelp or Yellow Pages or Charity Navigator. These are all things that relate to SEO. Sponsorships. So you may have sponsors who are donating and sponsoring your organization. And lastly, you may be getting recognition from news outlets already. So these are all things that we can work with that will really help your SEO if you line them all up the right way. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Once we have these things in place and we finish with this weekend, things you'll want to do moving forward. You're going to want to review your website on a monthly basis, if you can do that, and look for insights, improvements. There's things in there where you can see, how are we doing? You should be publishing updates about your organization in your blog. Write an article if something new happens. And then when you do have updates, you should be promoting those in the press and in social media. All right, so jumping into like the tactile stuff, the tactical stuff, optimizing your website. So a lot of this is going to be stuff that your team may have done for you, but just in case, it's in this presentation, so you can get a glance at it to set things up if need be. So in WordPress, under Settings, General, there's a thing called the site title, where you'd want to put the name of your organization, the name of your nonprofit. And that's a pretty important thing. It shows up throughout WordPress. And it gets appended to the end of title tags. So the title tag is the most important tag on every page. and the name of your organization will show up there. So typically, like if you have a blog post, it'll pull in the name of the post and then put the name of the organization afterward. So my one tip here for the site title is to use something kind of short. If you have a short version of the name of your organization, go with the shorter one, because there's a limited amount of space in Google results. And this is typically where the title shows up, right at the top. It's like the headline. And it's about 65 to 70 or so characters long. So if you have a very long title, or I'm sorry, if you have a very long name of your nonprofit, and then you happen to have a long title for a post or something, it's going to get cut off. And you generally get better click-through from Google when you have like a nice crafted title that's easy to read. All right. And so this is exactly what I was just explaining. Title tags have about 65 characters, and they can get cut off. Okay, next up, Rank Math, the plugin. Once you log into WordPress and you're in the backend system here, it should look something like this, where you have this navigation along the left with the different tools and things that you can use. And the things that you'll have for Rank Math includes technical SEO, and it helps optimize your content. So there's dashboard reports. So if you connect to Google Analytics, this is like a view from Google Analytics. If we have your 404 monitor set up, you can see if people are hitting pages with errors where the page is not there. And you can have a redirect set up. It'll show you these reports. It'll give you a sense of, let me click through the builds here. So here's where Rank Math shows up. There's this SEO analysis that you can look at, and it looks like this. So you can kind of see, okay, how am I doing? And the thing about this is that when you're looking at this, some of the elements are site-wide and some of the elements are only about the home page. So like where it talks about the title, description, headings, and image, all these things down here. This heading is your heading on your title, on your home page. So it's not like site-wide. So it's kind of a limited glance at what you're doing and how things are going. And the other thing to note is that if you're working with your team who's building your website and you go and look at this stuff, it's never going to be a really good score until your site gets pushed live, because some of the technical things aren't going to work yet. Your website, when it's being built, is going to be on a staging environment, a subdomain. It's not going to be on, nameofyourorganization.org. It's going to be on, I forget what the subdomains are, but it's like something different, .nameofyourorganization.org or .48and48.org. So some of the tagging and the paths that it's looking for just aren't going to be connected yet. So don't take that too much to heart while your team's working on it. All right, so the next thing to talk about is if you want to look at other pages and get a sense of, what can I do to help the SEO throughout the website. So you could actually go into any post or page, and underneath the content, you'll find a Rank Math SEO rectangle here that's got information for that page. So it'll have a preview of the SERP, which stands for Search Engine Results page, which looks like this. So you can see, that's the title, that's a description. This is sort of what it might look like in Google search results. And so you can edit those things and make it look better. You can revise that so that it's more catchy and really captures your audience. There's an advanced tab, a schema tab, and a social tab. So under the advanced tab, if you have breadcrumbs set up on your website, that's the little navigation across the top that says, like, if I'm on a blog post, it might say like home, arrow, blog, arrow, name of the post. And so that's the breadcrumb navigation. So you can edit that and customize that. The redirects are there. So if you have people hitting a page that's an old page that's gone, you can redirect that old page to a new page. So they stop hitting that page that's an error. And then lastly, social. So there's some things in here under the social tab so that you can see what it looks like if someone was to share a blog post. See, what is the image that gets shared? What's the little snippet of text? So you can massage that and make it look good and get like a good image, so that when it does get shared, it's going to be more enticing. All right, just a couple of other things here under rank math. So your team will most likely go through this. If not, you'll be able to go through this and use this to take a look at setting up rank math. So the essential things that you should have is going through the setup wizard. So under plugins, you can find Rank Math SEO and click into Setup Wizard. And it'll open up the wizard. And if your team has already gone through it, you can skip through to the very end. And then it'll look like that. And you can skip through and say set up advanced options. And you can go and set up your advanced options. And that's where we have the redirection and some other advanced things. Oops, let me go back. So some of the things that are in here, you'll find your site organization info that we talked about. You'll see how to integrate Google Analytics and Search Console. So if you're using those, you can connect those. And so this is, just back up a little. This is your site info with the organization info. This is the analytics area. Site maps, you don't really do anything with them. They just work right out of the box. Optimization, you don't do anything with. But the Ready tab is where you can go in and set up role manager if you want to give different people who have different logins, different roles. Your redirects and the schema markup, which just leave it as is. But I like to set up the redirect and enable that so you can do the redirects. So I know this is terribly exciting and not technical at all. And this has just been really awesome. But if you want to learn more and you're tired of listening, there's this website for Rank Math right here, rankmath.com, and they have a knowledge base, rankmath.com/KB. So if you have access to this presentation later, this link will be here for you. It's got answers to everything, help you set things up. So an area that's really helpful for you for SEO is local SEO. So if you have a location and you're in a city or in an area and people come to your location, it's going to be very important for you. So one of the things that you want to do is keep your organization information up to date. So if you go into Rank Math and click into titles and meta, there's this local SEO area here, and you should have the name of your organization here. You can put your logo. You should have the URL. And all this information, the address, all that information is going to get coded into what's called schema code behind the scenes. And it's going to be in the pages. And it's something that machines can read. And it's going to have all that information there that tells Google when it comes to look at your website. It's going to say, hello, Google, the name of my organization is this. My logo is here. My address is here. And so it has all that information explicitly given to it. And so that's really important because Google has those map listings that we saw. And that's what helps you get those working right and ranking higher in them. And one of the things that you want to do is be consistent. Anywhere you have map listings, so they can be in Facebook, Yelp, YP, Bing Maps, Apple Maps. You know, there's lots of map listing places out there. Wherever you're showing up, you want that same exact info so that you're feeding Google the same information from all sources. So that's going to help get you higher in the results as well. And the most critical thing to include here is name, address, phone, NAP, name of organization, address, phone number. Those are the three key elements Google's looking for. All the other stuff is awesome if you want to do it, but it's kind of bonus. It's not critical, but that name, address, phone, that's what Google's looking for across all these different places to determine if it feels like, okay, yeah, this is where you say you are, because that's how everybody says that's your name. Everyone says that's your address. Everyone says that's your phone number. Okay, that's you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the map. So that's the important stuff. So the last thing here to talk about amongst the nitty gritty is redirects. So if you had an old website and say the about page, or you had a really important article that was getting a lot of traction and people reading it, you're probably going to want people to find that stuff again on your new website. So if you have a different URL for it, when people hit that old URL, they're going to get an error, a 404 page. It says, oh, this page is gone. So you're going to want to redirect that old URL to the new one. And it's the kind of thing that happens so quick, people don't see it. The address bar at the top, when they click, it'll just instantly flip over to the new URL. And the way you do that is with redirects. So in rank math, after making sure redirects are enabled, like I showed you through the wizard, you'll then have these controls here for redirects. And all you have to do if you want to add one is click Add New. And then you fill in the information, the source URL. What's the old URL that they were using? And then the destination URL. What's the new URL where we want them to go? And once you enter them in, hit Add Redirection, you'll have a nice little list at the bottom. You can see all the redirects that you've set up. Take a breath, pause, make sure no one has questions. I don't have my water. Lots of water. Okay, we'll jump into the next section. This is what I think is the fun part of SEO. Stuff you don't really think about. It's like the tagging and the title tags, using keywords on the pages. Okay, we get it. That's kind of what you've heard about SEO. But this is the kind of neat stuff that that you can do as an organization that helps. And it helps a lot. Creating content that's worth promoting. So my recommendation is to create pages or posts on your website for any event or partnership. An event, something that's happening live in the world, is worth talking about. People coming and gathering and doing something, hiring a new person, having a new member of the board, having a new partnership with another organization. This is all stuff that's like worth talking about. So make a page about it, or a post. A blog post, either one. And once you've done that, you've got this nice little area where you can tell people about it, and then you can direct them there. So the idea is you get that URL, and when you talk to press about it, you can do press releases, you can do online press releases, or you can contact people from the press, journalists, etc., and share that URL and say, hey, we're doing this thing, or we just did this thing. Here's the page where you can read about it. That gives them an opportunity then to write about your event and then add a link to your website from the newspaper website, or in social media, to post about it and include that link in your post. And then when people reshare that post, they're creating new links to your website every time it gets shared. So these are ways that you're creating content where the content on your website is being shared, and those links just have new signals, new ways pointing to your website, that when they tell a friend, they're not just telling them about the event, or if a journalist talks about it, they're not just talking about the event, they're also pointing to you. And Google sees that and says, hey, this is where it's at. I'm pointing to them, and it helps build authority to your website. So you can do this in direct mail. If there's bloggers in your industry that you know of, getting that information out to them and having that page on your site about it is, your way to get people to come to the site, for Google to recognize your site, and boost your authority of your brand. The second thing that I would talk about would be business listings. So if you have a Google map listing, a Google business listing, that's probably the first one that you want. And you want to make sure your name, address, and phone number are consistent with what you put on your website. But there's a few other listed here that are really good ones. GuideStar by Candid, perfect for nonprofits. You just go to the website and look for how you can get listed, how you can set up like a profile for your nonprofit. Facebook, if you have a Facebook page, put your location in there, so you have that name, address, phone number on a page in Facebook. Foursquare, Bing Maps, Apple Maps, Yelp, Yellow Pages. There's one called Hotfrog. These are all places, all websites that you can go and set up a page for your organization and put that information in there. And the last thing I'd like to say about this is, once you have those listings, build them, especially like the ones that are most popular, like Google or Facebook. Fill out all the fields, put photos up if there's an opportunity to have photos in there. If there are any questions from people, they can put questions. You saw earlier, there's a Q&A, question and answer area in the search results. So if people are asking questions, answer the questions. And then ask people to write reviews. So I would say don't ask staff, because that's sort of cheating. It goes against the requirements and guidelines for using your Google business services. So, but you can definitely ask volunteers, donors, recipients, customers, anyone else to write reviews, so that they show up here. And, especially like if you have an event, after the event, people had a great time, they're pumped, be like, hand out a card with a link to your, with a QR code that links to your listing, so they can write a review and be like, here, write us a review if you had a great time. And then lastly, you can respond to the reviews. People write reviews. As the owner of that listing, you can go in and respond, be like, that's great, you had a great time. We're having another event coming up here, and you can kind of promote yourself at the same time. So it's great to respond to them. If there's any negative reviews, oh, I'm sorry you had a bad experience, please contact us at this email and we'll help take care of whatever issue you had. Kind of take the conversation offline. But it's great to respond to positive and negative. All right, last chance for a pause here. I think I've taken up my 30 minutes, so I'm going to stop, say thank you. but I think we have a few minutes if there are any questions. And I don't see the chat, so I don't know if there are any questions in the chat.
I'm not seeing any.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. Again, my name is Greg Lee. I'm with Dentsu X in Atlanta. And I love doing 48 and 48 every year, 3 events a year. And you'll see me at the next one.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right. I want to introduce our... Oh, well, Greg, actually, the one question just snuck in here. Share more about Hot Frog, Foursquare, GuideStar, and what you would prioritize.
I think GuideStar is a great one because it's specific for nonprofits. Which were the others? Like Hot Frog.
Hot Frog and Foursquare.
Yeah, Foursquare used to be. People don't really think of it as being a big one, but it's like it's bigger than Hot Frog, right? You've probably heard of Foursquare. You probably have not heard of Hot Frog. Go with the ones that you've heard of because that's probably where you're going to have the most visibility. So go with those bigger ones first and work your way down. And yeah, anything that's nonprofit related is probably going to be a good one because it gets you a listing in that nonprofit space online and helps, Google associate you with nonprofits.
Awesome. And then actually we have another one. Do you have any advice on how to reach out to journalists?
I know that journalists in the past used to hang out a lot on Twitter. And if you look at articles, search for articles in your industry, search for news about what the area that you're in, you could find people who are writing about articles, and a lot of times they'll have like some of their info there. They may have like their handle or even an email. You can even email the publishers or editors at different places, different publications. And the other thing that you can do is just, if you search like online press releases, like PR Web is one of them that comes to mind, Newswire. But if you search like online PR, there's lots of them. Some of them are even free. Some of them it's like a cost to do like a press release, but it'll like shoot it out to journalists everywhere. And you even have an opportunity when you do that for it to just show up like right in like Yahoo News in its entirety, as if it's like a news article. Other times a journalist might see that and pick it up and, prompt them to write something.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all we have.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. I want to intro our next speaker. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to effortlessly attract advocates for their cause and create a big following with big impact? Our next speaker teaches professionals to be magnetic in their communication so that they pull people in, exude confidence, and drive change. Please give it up for storytelling and growth leadership expert, Christy Renee Stehle.
Greg, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
I was looking for the share controls. Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh, got it.
Imagine how much good you could do in this world if prospects approached you instead of the other way around. And if you could spend less time worrying about outreach and engagement and maybe lack of opportunities, and spend more time pulling people in and getting your network to work for you. 4 years ago, I moved back to the States after my biggest and kind of first speaking opportunity. It's like, this is what I'm going to do forever. I have it figured out. Yes. I moved back in December 2019. What happened next? The world shut down. So I was technically broke, no way to make money. I hadn't lived in Atlanta for 15 years, so I had no community. And I was living at home with my parents until I figured out what was next. And suddenly, I was a growing, emerging leader in my early 30s whose parents were taking house arrest very seriously. So I remember them looking at my face when I'm full of fear at the prospect, being stuck inside with them, no job, no friends, nowhere to even go. And they mistook the look of fear on my face for genuine concern and fear for the situation. And I remember them looking at me so seriously and saying, "Don't worry, sweetie, we'll be here together, inside together." And now I feel bad laughing, but if there's any of you who have ever spent too much time as an adult with your parents, you can probably relate just a little bit. So luckily, I was able to move in with a new friend. We didn't know each other well, and it worked out really great for both of us. And over the next 4 years, I applied the communication, storytelling, and presence techniques that we'll talk about today, and I saw some pretty big wins. Within the first 6 months, I 10 times my income. I went from making $7.75 an hour when restaurants opened back up to making $75 an hour as a writer. And within the first year, I negotiated a 6-figure salary with no formal experience. By year 3, I was invited to be on the board of directors for our local chapter of National Speakers Association. How did I do this? Can I get a show of hands? Digital is fine. Who all joined us for the networking event 2 weeks ago? Okay, so we've got some new faces here. Welcome back to those that were there. For the new faces, I recently attended a conference, and on day 2, lunch was in a different hall than day 1. And I was running late, and so I didn't expect when I opened the door that this room would be so huge that all 2,500 attendees were sitting there at mostly full tables, laughing, joking, and enjoying time with their industry buddies. Now, I'd pushed myself out of my industry and out of my comfort zone to be here. So when I saw all the people, I felt pretty intimidated. My doubt story kicks in. You know the one. So in the past, this doubt story would used to hijack my thoughts and maybe change my behaviors. But now I know that that's just a cue to step back in the present moment. So I slow my roll, I slow down, I start walking more slowly, I connect to my breath more deeply, and I say a prayer or an intention in my mind. And as I do so, a woman's path crosses mine. She takes a look at the room, is like, wow, it's not even worth trying to find my friends. I have to be somewhere at 2. I don't have a lot of time. Now, I knew right then and there she was a big deal because only the important people were invited somewhere at 2. So it would have been really easy when we sat down together for me to make the number one mistake most people make when it comes to talking about their work or business. Because we're at networking events to grow our careers, so we should talk about our work and pitch people, right? Wrong. Because pitching before you've built rapport is the fastest way to turn people away. Yet it happens all the time. But thankfully, because I had connected to the present moment, it was obvious to me that she was distracted. So those that were at the networking event, this surprised you when I told you that we sat there in silence for 15 minutes. The silence was only broken when I started laughing because they had given us plastic cutlery to cut the chicken off a bone. So I'm sitting there like trying to be cool, like trying not to fling it in somebody's face. And she doesn't really say anything at first. Then a few minutes goes by and the same thing happens to her. So we had this shared experience that led to shared understanding, and now we're laughing together. And that's when she turned and she looked at my badge, and I knew I had her attention. So any one of these things assumes attention. And in today's world, attention is a rare and precious thing. To capture it long enough to tell your story, you must pull people in. Now, there's different ways to do this. Story happens to be my favorite, as is self-disclosure, authenticity, and vulnerability. And now there's this popular misconception that vulnerability makes us vulnerable, but it doesn't. Vulnerability makes us real, and audiences today are more guarded than they've ever been. Think about it. Everybody's selling something all the time. Everybody has an agenda to push. Everybody's got a business. AI's made it easier. It's just push, push, push all the time. So I leaned into this, and I was totally transparent with her. I said, you know, I'm here seeking new opportunities because I feel like my industry is at a dead end. I said, I'm looking to see how I can translate my communication skills into the event industry. Through my story and my vulnerability, we connected. How do I know that? She started reaching in her purse to pull out a business card. She wanted to stay connected. And now in a few minutes, we'll look at some real world examples of people assuming connection happens just because an interaction has been had. That's not the case. Connection is extremely important when it comes to outreach and communication, and you want to make sure that you have that. So as she pulls out her business card, that's when I know, okay, now it's safe. I can tell her I'm a speaker. I also have a motivational leadership training program that we're talking about everything here today. And you know what she said? Imagine that. I decide who we pick for speakers at our conference that's coming up next year. I would love for you to apply. This would be great. Pretty amazing. So take a screenshot of this or make sure you write it down. And while most of these seem pretty obvious, we see it again and again and again. So if you're not making these mistakes, you're already going to be ahead. What about this one that says not enough information? What might that look like? Maybe you're guilty of this yourself, or you've gone to a networking event and you ask somebody what they do and you get a one-word answer. Unless I'm really interested in that person or that role, it makes it really hard to have a conversation, right? Don't make it hard for people to engage with you. Make it easy. So to grow your presence and attract opportunities, I want you to learn to tell your brand story. And now if you see this and you see the word brand and you're like, hey, this doesn't apply to me. I'm a professional. I'm in sales. It doesn't apply. I'm here to tell you that it does. Because if you're sitting here in 2024 thinking it only applies to organizations, companies, or influencers, unfortunately, you're sadly mistaken. Because to stand out in a new era of business that we're in, and yes, we are in a new era, you should be applying these branding techniques, whether you're a nonprofit, you're here today as a volunteer and professional, or if you're in sales, because it is such a great way to increase your know, like, and trust factor. And when you do that, you can attract opportunities in the forms of partnerships, funding, and top talent if you're a nonprofit. If you're a professional, maybe that looks like it's your next best connection, your dream job, or thousands of dollars more in negotiations and interviews. These are real world examples from people I've worked with. If you're in sales, maybe this looks like bigger commission checks and a full pipeline and less effort through the whole process because your prospects are hungry for what you have. They know, like, and trust you. So take a look at the graph on the next two slides. This first one is showing a steady increase in marketplace competition since the start of 2022. That's the US and the global, both going straight up. And this next one is showing that while more people are in line than ever before, engagement is actually down. Why is this? We have a new era. In this new era of business, we have a new demographic. Now the primary buyers, the ones making decisions, they're all digital natives, millennials or younger in the most case, in the primary biggest demographic. And so what used to work doesn't anymore. And to stand out, it's not enough just to post online or attend networking events or even have a really, really great website that's going to help you in so many ways. You need to show up with presence. So how do you do that? So telling your brand story is a great place to start. And now this can be a good exercise for you to do with the organization. But when I say your history, I really mean make this about you. How did you get to where you are? Why do you care about social justice? Why is it important to you? What journey did you take to get here? Your realizations, your triumphs. even your failures, because our failures make us real. It shows that we've been through something, we've learned, we've grown, we've survived. Learning is important, and being able to show this through your realness, that's where connection comes from. So today we're going to be talking about making lasting impressions through guiding the narrative, establishing your voice and persona, and inspiring action. Because you could do everything right, but if you don't know how to inspire action, how will you ever drive change? How will you get them to open your email or share your post on social media or invite you to connect with their network? So those who stay through to the end will get their copy of Communication and Outreach Playbook. This is valued at $55. Congratulations to you guys. And we have a guest in the audience today too, Coach Emery Williams of Youth Education and Sports. He took my training 2 years ago and said that the prompts helped him during a time that they were struggling and needed clarification on how to get funding. He said through the training in the book, they were able to improve their branding, increase their media presence, and engage the general public. He told me, we talked the other day, that they went from a struggling organization to having a robust and successful nonprofit. I'm so happy to hear it. Shout out to you, Coach, for doing the work. I'm so happy that you have confidence, clarity, and funding to increase your impact of such a great mission. And just like their organization, clarity leads to confidence. Where else does confidence come from? We're all here in Atlanta. How many times have you driven through an intersection that you've never been in before and you're sweating bullets in the wrong lane? People are honking at you. You don't know where you're supposed to be. But after time, you go back to that same intersection. It becomes part of your daily or your weekly routine. And now you know where to go and you're laughing at the others or maybe cursing at the others who don't know where to go. You become familiar and more confident. Now, courage is my absolute favorite tool when it comes to increasing opportunities. And when I'm seeking new opportunities, you better believe I'm pushing out of my comfort zone weekly, if not daily, because it is such a powerful tool. And I want you guys to write this down. Courage creates confidence. Now, courage doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it leaves us with an unstoppable energy immediately after and for a long while to come. 2 days before my biggest career win, I was asked to exercise courage in a pretty significant way. I was asked to confront my lifelong fear of heights. See, I decided to speak on courage when I was asked to speak on the Mind Valley University main stage because public speaking used to terrify me. So it took a lot to get up to that point. And as life so often does, man, it asked me to put my money where my mouth was. And I was invited cliff jumping. Now, I didn't want to do this. I've been terrified of heights my entire life. But I didn't see a way out of it. What was I supposed to do? Be like, no, I'm way too scared. There's no way I can do that. But make sure you catch my talk on courage in 2 days. It's going to be great. I had to do this. So I get up there and I'm standing 35 feet above the Adriatic Sea. I can feel the wind brushing in my hair and I'm nervous. I'm shaking so much. I'm just going to fall and tumble off. And I'm up there for a pretty long time. My friends in the background are like, is she ever going to go? They start, do you want to count down? I nod and they start counting down 3, 2, and I know it's my moment and I have to do this. I remember one hand finds my nose and plugs it like a total dork. It doesn't matter how you get it done, just get it done. The other grabs onto my torso so I have something to hold on to as I fling myself off. And before I know it, I'm 1 foot up and away and I'm doing it. And when I landed in that cool, salty water, I've never been so unstoppable in my life. My confidence was at an all-time high during my first keynote on my dream stage, and I delivered a magnetic performance that led to true transformation for many. And so courage can be hard at first, but it is totally worth it. And my full scope of work includes courage training. So you can use your body and your brain to create a neurochemistry primed for bold, brave action. And if you're curious, I would love to talk about this in the Q&A after. And now, before I had the opportunity to travel across the world, I dealt with chronic digestive issues so severe that my one-day dream of traveling the world seemed forever impossible. I couldn't even eat inside my own kitchen without feeling really sick. My hair was falling out. I had horrible adult acne. The more I tried, the worse everything seemed to get. So I will never forget the day when serotonin came rushing back into my life. And I say rushing because I remember when my world was dark and gray before, colors were more vibrant. It was like when TV went from black and white to suddenly in color. That's how big and dramatic a shift it was for me. I discovered that my microbiome was unbalanced and I didn't have enough of the good guys to digest my food. And so through probiotics and some alternative methods, before long, I felt better than I ever had in my life. So if you struggle with any kind of gut issues, like so many of our population does, you're not getting the serotonin you need, which makes feeling confident and having a big presence much more difficult. Because 95% is produced in our gut, and it's called our second brain for good reason. Think about it. You have your gut instinct, you have your gut intuition, and confidence and guts are synonymous. So it makes a lot of sense when you're trying to go after more confidence in your voice and in your persona to have your body work with you instead of against you. Now, our vagus nerve, that's Latin for the wanderer, touches all of our biggest organs. And so our breath work can regulate this. Look, it touches everything from the brain throughout the entire body. And when it's relaxed, it signals every organ that it's safe to relax. And we have a muscle whose job is to wrap our spine and spinal cord, which means we can use our body and breath work to tell our body to be calm and calm our nerves. And when our nerves are calm, guess what? We're not nervous. So has anybody ever told you, maybe well-meaning friends or family, man, you just got to let it go. You got to let it go. It's time to let it go. And have you thought they were right? No, they were right. But you're like, okay, but how? How do I let things go? I became really obsessed to finding that answer. And I found a great book by David Hawkins, who offers a map of consciousness, which is a structured way to understand how to transcend low vibrational emotions. So if you're carrying anything that doesn't serve you, shame, guilt, maybe people-pleasing habits, and you figure out how to let that go, your energy and confidence will skyrocket. And lastly, the idea of stepping into a persona, this idea of wearing a hat can help. So in my mid-20s, I was so super shy, which makes sense because we just learned I didn't have the serotonin that I needed. And life hadn't really gone as planned. I had graduated as a hospitality design student into the Great Recession. So I'd gone within 6 months from 100% job placement to not even being able to find an unpaid internship. So even though small talk was really hard for me on the daily basis, I got a job bartending. And something amazing happened. Every time I pulled on that black on black uniform and I tucked my lime green bar key in my pocket, I became a more confident me. I was great with conversations and small talk and building regulars and making sales. So what does your confident persona look like? Consider how you show up. What colors, cuts, and styles would the most confident version of you wear? And this works if you're an organization or if you're a professional. Think about your posts, your pitch decks, your email signatures. You see gold on the screen and you see gold behind me. Why? Gold is linked to the idea of champion, success, and affluence. So when you see it, I want you to feel inspired by your champion mindset. Now take a look at this picture taken in April at a Creative Mornings event. Now, ideally, my scarf would not be hanging out of my jacket like this, but the purpose of this isn't perfection. It's to be you, it's to be real, and it's to be memorable. Now, I got up there and I shared a little pitch, and when I got done, somebody in the audience wanted to talk to me, and they were like, it was really amazing how you commanded their attention, and the audience really seemed captivated by you. And then, and this is the important part, he said, you were dressed differently than everybody else there. You were your brand. He said, I want to connect you to Milan at 48 and 48, which is how I'm here today. And David, if you're tuning in from your travels, thank you. It was amazing. My know, like, and trust factor is working for me. I went to a Creative Mornings event yesterday. I'd only been there once in April, months ago. I walk in, totally different outfit. My hair's in a ponytail, which almost never happens. And the guy taking names, he's like, Christy, do I know you? He's like, yeah, I remember you from April, right? Remind me your last name. This is how you can make it work for you. Now, a great way to start this exercise is to consider how you'd want to be perceived on your most confident day of networking. So if you guys want to start throwing some adjectives in the chat, later when you get your book, you can sit with this and select 3 to 5, but get the conversation going. We probably all want to be confident, right? But what else? So if you take a look at National Speakers Association, this is the Georgia chapter. If you go to one of their events, or if they're out anywhere, they want to be welcoming, energizing, inspiring, entrepreneurial, and connected. Saya, it's an LTL freight, a trucking company. They want to show up personable, proud, reliable. You'll see in the middle some words that I've been told that I am or like to exude. And when I can visualize who I want to be, how I want to show up, it makes showing up that way far easier. Did you know that Olympians use imagery as mental training? So if you can understand who you want to be when you walk out that door and how you show up, you're already expanding your presence and making yourself more memorable and magnetic. So another big mistake to avoid is lack of clarity. If you want to understand how to position your outreach and your communication, you have to understand who you're talking to and what they value. So we had a couple questions in the chat from before I got on. If you're curious about outreach and how to talk with people, this is a section you really want to pay attention to because it happens to businesses, speakers, aspiring magnetic networkers all the time. And you'd be surprised how many of these big brands that I used to work on at corporate advertising, they have almost no knowledge of their audience. Maybe some generic words that fail to touch the heartstrings, but nothing really impactful. So write this down too. When you try to talk to many, you're heard by none. But when you talk to one person who's ever had that specific problem, you touch the heartstrings of everybody that has ever felt that way. And if you're looking to make sales or funding, talk in the language of transformation. Transformation is tangible. Transformation sells. Where will their money go? To this transformation. Makes it a lot easier in your outreach. So let's take a look at a specific example. You guys here this weekend, now you're probably feeling or felt most of the things on the left. Without a website, you were relying on outdated communication methods. Maybe you felt overwhelmed and intimidated by creating and maintaining a website. Now, if you look line by line, everything on the left will match up on the right with a before and after transformation. So after this weekend, thanks to our amazing volunteers, which let's give it up. I know we can't all make noise right now, maybe throw up some emojis, thank our amazing volunteers. They're going to have you feeling empowered and confident with a professional website that's easy to maintain. And now the important part here is using language that whoever you're speaking to would use themselves. Now this one up here, I'm not really in this situation. We didn't get a chance to talk about it a lot. So these are the facts, but you may be even able to take it a step further if you guys were to talk amongst yourself about how you're really feeling. And if you're a nonprofit seeking funding, you're going to have 2 audiences. 1, the people that you can help and impact, and 2, the people that you want to donate to you. So what kind of benefits would it look like for them? If you're going after a sponsor, maybe benefits to them are like increased tax incentives or, enhanced brand presence. The point is they would not speak that way. So Milan, if you're okay with me putting you on the spot, if you can come off mute and maybe share some of the language that sponsors would use, what's the benefit to them to sponsoring you?
Most of the sponsors usually just say what aligns with their pillars. So every organization has their own things that they cater to. So one, for instance, caters to youth. So when we did a girls program last year, that caught really interested them, and that's something they wanted to support. So it's really just doing background research on who you're trying to get money on and paying attention to who the different areas they give money to. So that way it'll save yourself a lot of trouble pitching yourself and wasting your breath in areas they won't even support.
Amazing. Yes, you can look at their pillars, see what they value, see where it fits in, and then pitch yourself to directly connect with that. Thank you for sharing. So let's also talk about positioning. Positioning means you're telling the same story, but to a different audience. So for instance, when you write your brand story, you have your history, your story, how you got here, what's your experience, but it changes depending on who you speak to. It's not that your story changes, but where you highlight things and certain resonance points, that's what's going to change. For instance, last week, I had different calls with a couple different audiences. We'll pick 3 for right now. One was Forbes Travel Guide, one was a university business school, and one was a marketing and communications department from events supplier. So with the Forbes Travel Guide, when I'm talking about my background, yes, I still say I have a background in corporate advertising, tourism, and hospitality, but then I go on a tangent and start talking about all the countries I got to see while I was writing, and then, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, Europe, but then I focus on talking about Croatia, because in 2015-16, when I was there, it was largely undiscovered. And I know that Forbes looks for the places that are more newly discovered to see if it's a good fit. So we had a great rapport going around that. If I was talking to a food and beverage magazine, I'd want to highlight the food maybe a little more than the destination. Now, the business school, I still say the same thing. That's still the 3 parts of my background, but I don't really talk about travel. They probably don't care too much about that. Instead, I talk about the big billion-dollar brands I've worked with: Chick-fil-A, American Heart Association, big business. With the event supplier, I talk more about the writing that I've done and my experience there. So it's the same story, but a different audience. It can also mean the same story, but through a different lens. Are you telling your story through a confident lens? Or are you telling your story through a not so confident lens? Because if you want to convince somebody to give you money, to hire you, whatever it may be, and you're standing there with a little bit of insecurity that you deserve the money, that you are the best choice, that you are the only candidate, how do you ever expect to convince them if you yourself aren't all the way connected? So I mentioned that I had that 6-figure experience with no formal experience. How did I do that? It was all through my story and how I positioned it. So I could have shown up to the interview totally unsure of myself, feeling, hey, I don't have any formal experience. I definitely don't meet all the job requirements. Yes, I had freelanced with them for 6 months, so the immediate team knew the value I brought, but not the higher ups. I didn't have 8+ years in an agency, let alone even 1. But I went to 35 different countries, and I bet nobody else that was applying did. So that's what I focused on, my unique story. So I told them how traveling through these countries, language barriers, and I always got my needs met. So I was the best at emotional and nonverbal communication, right? I honed in on that point. I also said I have public speaking experience. So you're getting a professional communicator. Suddenly, they were hooked on to what I could bring, and no one else could. So I made myself the only choice of candidate. You can do this too. We were having a conversation. I think we may have some in the audience today. A woman at an event yesterday we met. This applies to her as well. She's looking to go into UX. She has a very specific background in dealing with people at a very intimate and vulnerable level, and how she maintained professionalism and guide them through that. That makes her the top choice for this other job. Does that make sense? Put a yes if this is making sense. Are you guys with me? I see some heads nodding. All right, perfect. So once you've identified your audience, you know what they value, you can speak in transformation, and you've positioned your narrative, now it's time for outreach. And so we have a bit of a paradox. 97% of people surveyed say that they mistrust anyone with sales in a job title. And conversely, 73% of buyers say they're more likely to consider a brand if a person reaches out on LinkedIn first. What does that mean? This shows that we're so sick of being sold to, but we still value human connection. So if you're able to build rapport on digital platforms like LinkedIn, I could give a whole workshop on how I've made LinkedIn work for me. It's such a great tool. Or you're building rapport in real life. It starts with connection. And now I have to say, guys, please do not use AI to help your outreach and expect results. If you want cold outreach, it has to be connection. And AI usually doesn't have any human emotion in the connection. So I really want this to come from a place of authenticity. Let's take a look at some real world examples. The following messages are all real outreach that came to my inbox. Look at this one, it's sponsored. They pay to put it here. I've marked out identifying features where I'm blank, I'm seeing a lot of acronyms, PhD, I know that. I don't really know the rest. Whole big block of text. Wow, okay, does this apply to me at all? All right, down to the bottom. Do you already have a bachelor's degree? Now, if they had taken a split second to look at my profile, yes, I do. And so when you're sending pay per click, advertising like this and sponsored, they're wasting money to send this to people who don't even apply. There's no connection. It's a waste of time. They're probably, oh, I'm trying so much. I'm paying money to do this and just nobody's responding. It's not what you're doing. It's how you're doing it. Let's take a look at this one. Hey, Christy, excited to connect with you. Okay, did we connect? Just because you say we connect doesn't mean we connected. I'm a passionate agency founder, all caps. That's kind of weird. I Googled it to make sure it's not something I didn't know about. That's not a thing. So we're being really non-specific here. So suddenly my guard's up more than ever. I have a real interest in your speaker work. If I could get you more speaking against events, would you be interested? There's nothing of value in this message, nothing of connection. She says she's interested in it, but doesn't say how. It almost kind of sounds like she wants to learn from me. Now she's propositioning me with more events. It's a waste of time. What's wrong here? Throw it in the chat if you guys are paying attention. Let me know you're with me. This one is so long, I couldn't even screenshot and make it fit. Then he goes in, do you require a virtual assistant who can help you by handling most of your work and enabling you to focus on more nonprofit generation activity? Whew, I'm tired just trying to read it. Do you require? That's not very conversational language. How about you sell me on the idea that I need a VA? Paint the picture. If this person had done the audience before and after that we talked about, and again, that goes really in depth in the books that you guys will get. Coach, who we featured earlier, said that they would return to it every week and just refine and refine and refine, and that was the ticking point. And this is the same thing whether you're looking for outreach, you're in sales, or you're doing your content strategy, where a lot of this came from. Paint the picture. If he had done that, he probably could have hooked me, and I might be like, yeah, you know what? I do need an assistant. You're right. You understand my problem because you're speaking in language of it, so I can trust you with the solution. Most people don't do this. So for those of you asking about outreach, understanding your audience and how to position. Check out this last one here. This is slightly better, a little bit more specificity. But where's the personalization? I'm reaching out to business professionals to let them know. Why are you in my inbox if you're letting them know? Again, this one's sponsored. They pay to be here. So write this down. In your outreach, please do not use them in this context. Do not say, I'm just following up. I wanted to know, I wanted to follow up. Don't use any of those three. You can use I am. That's confident language. That's a language of a leader. Now she does that, sort of, I'm reaching out, but really that whole first paragraph could be gone, could be deleted. So when you're doing your outreach, consider the potency of your words, make it short, and seek authentic connection. Now, if you go all the way down, okay, now something relates to me, transitioning into senior leadership. Again, they had taken a second to look before just mass sending them out. She would have seen that sending this to me is a waste of time and money because I have that senior leadership experience. And it's wild to me that people pay to do such a bad job. So if you guys are out there with these tips and strategies, you're going to be standing out and rising above the noise. There's so much opportunity. You want to ask me how I got on the board of directors for national speakers? Through a cold outreach message on LinkedIn. I was interested in TEDx at the time. I thought that's what I needed to do. And so I'm doing my research and I find a page that shows the curators and I send out some messages. Now, not everybody makes it as easy to engage with them as you do. So if I do a LinkedIn one at some point, we could talk about that, make your profile easy to engage with. And there was one woman who had I can't put my hands up all the way. I think the camera will change, but she had a big victorious picture on top of a mountain. And it was a big mountain. It looked like a big deal. She had leadership all over. She was a speaker. She used that as a metaphor with her STEM training that she does. So that was really easy for me. It's like, okay, what was the first thing that I always did in a new country? I went to the highest peak and I looked out over the whole thing. So I sent a message. I'm like, hey, what's that mountain? That's so awesome. Making it about her, making it about a shared experience. I say, when I was traveling, that was the first thing I always did. I've moved back. I'm looking to grow my community of female leaders. She lets me know that she's the president of our Georgia chapter of National Speakers Association. She sends me a personal number and asks if I want to be her first-time guest. Now, at the time, I was like, wow, I can't believe she's being so welcoming to me. And now I know if you look back at those first words, welcoming, that's the essence. So she was living that. But it made such a difference. And now I went from not knowing anybody to a few years being on the board of directors of this amazing association, all because of a cold LinkedIn message that does better than this because it was real and about connection. So we mentioned we would talk about inspiring action. So now you understand what they care about, you understand how to improve your outreach. How do you make them take action? Otherwise, your efforts fall on deaf ears. And even though I never had formal copywriting experience when I was at the agency, part of the reason I was promoted 3 times in 2 years was because of my key understanding of this concept. So do not underestimate it. If you want to pull people in, you have to get them to feel. And so the best way to do that in a short space is that transformation before and after exercise that we talked about. You can tell a very short story that hooks and pulls people in. Now, if you have the opportunity to tell longer stories, maybe your confidence is up, you're excited about being a guest on podcasts or being interviewed or writing a guest article. You have more time to tell your story. So this is where you have the opportunity to drive change at a big level. This is a photo of 40 people facing their biggest fear of public speaking after I disclosed how terrifying yet transformative it was for me my first time. We created an energy of action and shared experiences in this room as I walked them through the story that I told the short version of earlier. Fear, courage, transformation. I reminded them that I was in the seats that they were sitting 1 year ago, and I was too scared to be on that stage. I was too scared to hold a microphone and say my name into it. Now I was on that main stage because I had the courage to speak up. One of them even became an award-winning speaker after facing their fear this day. And now it's not this woman on the screen, although she looks like she could be it. Look at her shining. I can feel her confidence in this photo all these years later. Read this story. At 28, she spent her life crippled by the fear of public speaking to the point she hoped she'd faint during a sit-down presentation. And she is up on stage in front of a room full of people with a microphone in her hand looking like that. Why? She said for the first time she took the stage and faced her fear because vulnerability and authenticity became hers. Courage became hers. So this is how you can embody emotions and use them in your storytelling to drive action. Talk about the work that you do. Make people feel those emotions and inspire them to support your cause. So you need to be able to embody emotions in order to do that. And fear of feeling, man, this held me back for a long time. Now we have a word for it. We call it toxic positivity. But 10 years ago, everybody was saying, just be happy, just be happy. Has anybody ever told you that? Now, I didn't think I was allowed to feel anything other than happy because that was the narrative going around. So I stuffed all my emotions down. I became like a pressure cooker after a while, big, intense emotions in there. And I'll be honest, it was a little bit messy when I started unpacking that and I started committing to feeling them. But the journey led me not only to peace inside of myself, I now understand how to drive action at a big level because I can embody emotions and drive change. So how did I discover that I had a fear of feeling? That's kind of weird, right? If you think about it, are we afraid of feeling? Do we just stuff them down? Are we told feelings we're not supposed to pay attention to them? Bungee jumping seems like an unlikely culprit. These photos were taken in 2008. I was doing a study abroad in New Zealand, and this was the 3rd highest bungee in the world at the time. Now, fast forward 10 years while I'm traveling, and I'm with a group who wants to go to New Zealand and wants to bungee jump. And I'm thinking, no, anything but that. Anything but that. I was on a quest of courage. I had to do it. If it came up and it confronted me, I was doing it. I didn't want to. So I sat with that for a while and I wondered, why didn't I want to? Because yes, I'm terrified of heights, but I've faced that fear a couple times. And I've been skydiving more than once. Those are my parents I was talking about earlier. I'm so proud of them. Never in a million years thought they would do that. You can look at my mom's face. She's like, why am I doing this? But we did it. So what was different about bungee jumping? And when I examined it, I wasn't actually afraid to die. I wasn't afraid the cord would snap or I'd fall, which might be some people's fear, but it wasn't mine. And looking back on it, it hits me. I was afraid to feel the intensity of the fear, the anxiety, the adrenaline, the disappointment in myself for not being braver. So I lucked out the second time the weather wasn't conducive to bungee jump, so I didn't have to do it. But it sent me down a really interesting journey. And now if you're in the audience thinking, you know, this is getting a little touchy-feely, talking about feelings, I'm here to tell you that this is such a critical element of storytelling and driving action and change. And it's a huge part of conscious leadership. Because when we're not present with ourselves, it's really hard to be present with others. And when we can be present with ourselves and extend that to present with others, that's when we form these magnetic connections really fast. And so remember, people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you do, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you. We can open it up for Q&A now. This is, I see we already have a question. Make sure to scan this code. This will get you the playbook that will help you take all of these great tips today and put them into action, and hopefully come back a year or two from now and say, just like Coach Christy, we're so successful. We're so grateful. That's what I want to see. I see one hand up. We can go to you. Let's see, Alexis. Hey.
So my name's Alexis, and Christy, first, thank you. I think this was really captivating. You know, you're a great public speaker, but I'll say it again. And I think it was really important, and I'm gonna use my courage moment for a moment here and say, so I was actually at 48 and 48 in 2018. I was a fresh college grad working in a nonprofit. I was no longer working in nonprofit by 2020 because I burnt out, careening like just off the cliff, Thelma and Louise style. And didn't know I had undiagnosed ADHD at the time and was really struggling with that, and just had too much on my plate and didn't know how to say no. So I will give my tiny shameless plug here that I'm a therapist now, went to grad school, pandemic, you know, you do the whole life transformation thing. And if you are looking to manage the burnout that comes with working in a nonprofit, manage the limiting beliefs that might keep you from tapping into your courage and owning your story, that is something that I specialize in. So please feel free to reach out to me. But my question for you, Christy, is that all of these very wonderful tips involve a lot of individualized work. And I know most of our nonprofit CEOs or presidents are already spread thin. So how would you recommend to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to time and individualizing your messages?
That's a great question. And I think, you know, yes, you can definitely do this for the nonprofit and you can develop that story, but you're right. That is a bigger branding exercise that in a lot of cases, like myself as a branding consultant would come in and help with the organization. The point that I really want to drive home here today is how when we're forming connection and outreach, or like, let's say that you're the person that works at the nonprofit and whatever role you have is the one that's going and talking to sponsors or sending 50 emails a day or whatever your specific process for that is. If you can focus on your story and the transformation as you see it, that's helping your outreach. So when you're going, you're connecting person to person versus a lot of times, just as you said, like, yes, you want to have all of that, you know, bigger branding exercise for the organization to really thrive. But if you're connecting person to person versus person to organization, then you're getting people that maybe they're the ones that are ready to give you funding right now. If not, they're saying, just like I got here today, you're making an impression on somebody with your story and they say, hey, I need to connect you with this person. I need to connect you with this person. And so it's just more of an idea about getting your network to support and elevate you versus the full branding exercise for an entire nonprofit, which you are right, is a bigger exercise. Just like Coach, they did it, their team made it work. It's still the same information, but the just positioning, right? The lens is, let's make this about your story, how you show up when you talk about your organization. Does that make sense? Cool. Do we have any other questions? Let me see if I can see the chat. Yes, no, maybe so. Thank you. Yes, we got yeses. Let's see. Too many asks, not giving enough. Not sure all the way that that means. Completely impersonal. I think it's just, I don't think we have any more questions. Cool. Thank you.